all coming back. I'm going to start with the topic of external providers very quickly. A lot of this paper deals with the traditional supply chain model of you need some materials or equipment, you go out, you find out who can provide them, and it's really about your incoming goods receipt function and whether you examine what you're receiving properly and is what you're receiving suitable for use in your own processes, whether they're manufacturing or service organization. Things have changed. What about situations where what you're being supplied with is information and data? How do you verify that the information and data you're receiving is what is useful to you and is what you need for your process? An example might be you are running a travel agency, and in order to sell travel packages to customers, you need to know what are the airline schedules, what are the hotel availabilities, what are the train times. You need that data to come to you in order for you to be able to create packages to sell to your customers. How do you control it? How do you validate it? I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but obviously as an auditor, you need to be thinking, what is the organization doing? What process has it put in place? What do I need to examine about that process to see if it's effective? So that's the traditional supply model, and that's looking at the sort of data supply model. What about outsourced processes? We no longer in Annex SL talk about outsourced processes because this term was beginning to be too confusing. So in the 2021 revision of Annex SL, we talked just about external providers. The inference is the same. What is an outsourced process? It's where you as an organization have a process that's critical to your management system, and you have allowed a different organization to run that process for you. I talked a little bit yesterday about the differences between processes where you as the organization understand that process and you as the organization do not understand that process or don't have expertise in running the process. How do you ensure that the organization controls those two different types of situations? So I gave an example of having asbestos removed from a building. My organization has no idea how to deal with asbestos. So we get in a specialist contractor. But how do we know that they are doing the job correctly? Do we have to get an independent consultant to verify that they've done the job correctly? Or is there a regulator that you might need to use to verify they've done the job correctly? Some of this is difficult because what we've seen in terms of outsourcing with some very large organizations is they outsource their financial or accounting function. Now, you might say, well, how does accounting affect the quality of what I'm doing or the product and services I provide? Well, you need to know at a managerial level, what is the itemized cost, the components going into your product and service? Do you know that external accounting provision is accurately giving you the information to make the decisions about your cost flow accounting system? So it's, again, something you're going to have to think about as an auditor on a case-by-case basis. how does the organization validate the service it's receiving from the external provider? Okay. This guidance note has a few bullet points about: is there appropriate documented information? Have orders been properly placed? Is there effective performance monitoring? And have the activities necessary for the specified requirements been carried out? Okay, that's quite simplistically. Most of the bullets here about auditing the procurement process. It's again mainly focusing on the old traditional external supplier model. They do mention in one of the bullets about checking if statutory and regulatory requirements are being met. Okay, well, that's not really about external supply. It's how you as the company specify your contract properly, I would say, more than has the supplier supplied against what was specified, which is really what you need to be checking. Associated with a component of up to part of the service, and the controls needed to ensure it meets the design specification. Again, that's something you're going to have to assess on a case-by-case basis. You know, if you're dealing with highly perishable goods, for example, you are in the food industry, if there's a delay in the delivery, what happens? You know, has it gone past the date by when you can use that food? COVID, the Pfizer vaccine, I believe, had to be kept at a very low temperature. What happens if there's some sort of temperature control problem and suddenly the vaccine is at the wrong temperature? Can you still use it? You have to throw it away. You know, what process controls you're looking at as an auditor in that sort of situation? I once worked as a temporary job, and we had these frozen lorries coming full of meat, and some of them you really questioned if the lorries were hygienic, and we had to use a temperature probe to go down the length of the lorry and decide at what point we would accept what they were delivering, or at what point we would throw away what they were doing. Now, again, has the customer you're auditing, has the client that you're auditing defined how to do that with procedures, or are they just doing it in an ad hoc manner, in which case you risk the food safety? That's what you as the auditor need to determine. So I hope I've asked you lots of questions that I can't answer. But I hope it's given you ideas what to think about when you're dealing with externally provided products and services. I know with the health and safety issue, again, or even environmental issues, you're looking at, have the products and services that are being delivered, are they in a safe way? Or are they packaged in such a way that they're not going to cause environmental pollution during the delivery process itself, before you get to the handling of the material into your process use? Any questions about external provision? Monica, you had any questions on external provision?
There are no questions, Charles. Apparently, everything is
the laboratories have perfect supply chain. There's no problems with monopolies on reference material not delivering their time.
I am also surprised, as you are.
You're also,
Yes, everything apparently is fantastic in our laboratories. Almost perfect. No, no hay preguntas sobre este tema. O sea, no tienen preguntas sobre la parte de los proveedores externos y los procesos que tienen que excluir y cómo se determina en el sistema de gestión. Bueno, conste, ¿eh? Ah, que ya sabía yo. Ok.
Sí, pues bueno, todos aquí sabemos que el tema de las compras está fuera de nuestras manos. En realidad nosotros nada más elegimos algún proveedor que ya conocemos y el proceso de la compra lo lleva la administración de nuestras entidades. Entonces, pues de alguna manera está un poco fuera de nuestras manos. A veces hay problemas de retrasos y todo esto. Sí hay un proceso, pero ya es administrativo, en que tiene que haber una carta de promesa, de que van a entregar el tiempo, etcétera, pero pero en realidad, pues no podemos hacer mucho ahí. A veces podemos meter quejas, ¿no? Que es la única herramienta que tenemos nosotros como para pues ejercer presión o querer que alguna cosa cambie con respecto al proceso de gestión que tiene la administración, pero no más allá de eso. Entonces, esa es como la experiencia, ¿no?
Okay. They were commenting that in the case of the university, the buying activities are do it by the administrative secretary, and that almost everybody in the management system declare that is an external supplier, no, because in the laboratories they cannot control their activities, no, so that's how they handle. Well, if they don't have questions, I would like to ask you something in behalf of them, because an external process or supplier, in this case for almost all the management systems, is actually the auditing process, because the auditing process is conducted by our coordination with the help of all these auditors that are independent. So when faculty or institute requires audit, this is conducted based on the process of the coordination. So the university entities doesn't have actually control on that. And that's precisely my question, because even if it's external, you have to control it in a certain way. So my question is, because this nobody has it right usually in their management systems, is how they can control that, or where are the auditings are reliable?
Okay, well, you said there is a central administration function that's doing the purchasing for you. That to me is similar to a global organization where the head office still controls a division. That division has to treat the head office as an external provider. So for your laboratory, I would be treating the central administration as an external provider. You then ask the question, how do you deal with what they're providing? Well, you have to validate what they provide. You have to do incoming inspection on the materials they provide. And if it's incorrect, you have to provide feedback or non-conforming reports to the central administration. The quality system is for the individual laboratory, Yeah,
Depends. Some of them are for an individual laboratory, but some of them are for the whole faculty or institute and have, in the case, for example, of Zaragoza, they have 50 laboratories in the same
where
management.
you put the boundary for
Mhm.
quality system. If the supply is external to that, then you need to inspect, validate, control what you're being provided. And that doesn't matter if it's in the central administration or purchased independently. Okay. Right at the end of this paper are 3 bullets. A couple of them are interesting. The first one is that our external providers of critical components, products, or services selected based only on their ability to supply an economical price. Very interesting, in the 1980s, across Europe, many public services, such as waste collection, water services, electricity, were sold from public ownership to private companies. So now across Europe, you mainly have private companies supplying water, electric, waste. In the early days of doing that, the contracts were awarded purely on price, and always the lowest cost bidder won the contract. Very quickly, it was recognized that they were not performing properly. And what has happened across Europe for those situations is now you have a combination of price and quality guarantee that the suppliers must meet in order to be accepted for those contracts. So, to me, in a way, this is a little bit dated, but it is historically something we think about. But there again, you have to think how many purchasing managers go, oh, that's the cheapest one, let's get that. They don't think, oh, where is the product coming from? I know when I'm buying something on eBay, I always look, where is the product located? Because sometimes it's China, and it's going to take 3 weeks to arrive, whereas I want it in 2 days. But, so sometimes lowest price is not the best guarantee you supply with the supply that you need. The second one was about outsourced processes, and I was thinking of a different model of outsourced processes. You probably know the company Siemens, big German engineering company. And Siemens made big electricity generators and things like that. In the UK, Siemens at one time was the biggest outsourced provider of meter readers. The people who go to houses to read the gas meters, the electricity meters, to get the charges for the consumer. So they were completely providing an outsourced process, which was essential to the functioning of those utility companies. In that situation, I would expect an auditor to go and sample some of the meter readings to see that they're doing the job accurately. Okay? It's not just based on a contract examination or validating what's provided. In that sort of outsourced process, I can see a need for the auditor to sample some of the process provided by the outsourced. Okay? The final bullet is more again the traditional requirement in ISO 9001, but do you have an evaluation criteria for providers? How do you review them? How do you maintain them as suitable suppliers? Do you have a grading? Or, we have determined one non-conformity with 1,000 products supplied. Is that changing their rating for us as a supplier? Again, the auditor can look at that to see how the organization maintains confidence in its supply. You might also extend that to looking at how the auditor examines how the organization selects new suppliers. Is there a process they have that the new supplier has to go through before it's accepted onto the supply base? That, interestingly, is becoming more and more prevalent in the issue of reputational protection. So we're seeing more and more contracts where people are asking questions about what is your sustainability policy? What are your environmental protection issues? What are your health and safety? So for new suppliers, it may not just be a question of, can you supply this product at this price? It may be a lot more information on the social side that they have to provide information about, and maybe even before the two events. Okay. We talked yesterday about large fashion companies buying T-shirts from Bangladesh. Well, are you just going to have a telephone conversation and go, that's fine? No. Or are you going to send an auditor to go and examine whether they're really able to provide, sustainable and socially acceptable one? That's a reputational risk. Okay, that's enough on external providers, unless anyone has any further questions.
¿Alguna otra pregunta? ¿No?
Audit reports. I know you have questions about audit reports. How do you rank an audit report? What do you need to put in an audit report? I'm sure this paper will tell you everything you want. The bit I like about this paper and the guidance is the first part, where it says actually there are different audiences for the audit report. And that may mean that you don't just create one report, you might need to create several different types of reports. So if you're reporting to top management, or you're sending a report to top management, you may need to have a sort of executive summary type report on how the audit went. Whereas if you're reporting to the quality manager, he wants to know, and she wants to know every single non-conformity or observation that you found. So for me, it's useful to know that, you may have to be looking at aspects for accreditation bodies, or you may be looking at regulatory body requirements. Yeah. But you have to be very careful. I don't think we've got time today. Maybe we decide to do the paper on statutory and regulatory requirements. One thing that says that auditors need to be very careful about is not giving any implication of regulatory compliance. That is not your job. You are, as an auditor, you have to understand the regulations the organization is working within, because you have to assess, are they meeting those regulations adequately? But you cannot put a statement in your audit report about compliance to the regulation. You are not a competent person to do that unless you have been instructed as part of the audit plan to do that, and you have been trained to be competent to do that. As an ISO 9001 auditor, you're not competent to make a judgment on regulation. Okay? And you could become liable with the company if the regulatory body finds there is a problem. For the health and safety standard, for many years, this was a really big issue for certification. Because if you as a certification body went and audited the site and said, that's fine, great health and safety, and the next day there is a major accident and someone is killed, and the regulatory body comes along and goes, that you audited it yesterday and you said it was fine, and obviously it wasn't, therefore you'll become partly liable for the proceeding by the regulatory body, or you risk becoming. So that's a liability issue. That's why, as a quality auditor, you should never be making statements in audit reports about regulatory compliance. Okay. Some of the things that an interested party, one of those groups that we just identified, might want to know about. If the system conforms to requirements, opportunities for improvement, non-conformity, strengths and weaknesses. If the system adequately addresses risk, information for future audit planning, areas that require follow-up, and additional information required for decision regarding certification. I think this is fairly logical. I'm slightly concerned about any opportunities for improvement. We have to be careful of auditors. We cannot act as consultants during the audit process, because if the company acts on such consultancy advice, how can we impartially audit the company the next time if they have implemented what we said? So that's an impartiality issue. It's why in the ISO custody rules for the certification bodies, it says you shall not conduct certification audits on clients where you have given consultancy at least 3 years ago. There is a prohibition in the rule. So I'm slightly concerned about that. Audit reports, the listing of things. I'm sure in your audit reports you deal with this. An introduction, an executive summary, some assessment of management, leadership, objectives and targets, actions taken on previous audit issues, internal audit, management review, and improvement, the impact of any significant changes, the areas that you audited, the sites you went to, and now I'm contradicting myself because it's telling you about compliance, and I just said we should never write anything about compliance. But actually, what it's suggesting here is it's not making statements about compliance, it's examining how the organisation ensures it understands what regulations and statutes it has to comply with. So in 14,001, you've got a clause on compliance obligations, and then you've got evaluation of meeting compliance obligations. There are two of the clauses in 14,001. But you're not actually, as an auditor with that standard, or indeed with ISO 45001, you're not as an auditor making a statement of compliance. We're just looking at the compliance management process. So that's, I think, what they're referring to here. An assessment of the effectiveness of the management system. Wow, that's interesting. Historically, ISO 14001 never allowed anyone but top management to make an assessment of the effectiveness of the management system. Whereas 9001 always allowed auditors to say your quality system is effective or it's not effective. 14,001 for legal reasons, because of environmental protection regulations. If anyone allowed an internal auditor to say, oh, the system's not effective, the regulator would come along and shut the company. So it was only the top managers who were allowed to make a statement on the effectiveness of the system. Now with the Annex SL framework, we do find auditors to make some evaluation of the effectiveness as intermediaries. Use of marks or any other relevance to certification and issues requiring further attention, and then some people legal disclaimers. I haven't gone through this in detail because I'm sure this sort of report format is familiar to you, and that really is the end of this guidance. No? Are there any questions on the presentation of the report? Do you segregate reports for different audiences, which is where I started talking about this?
No, it's a general report that is for everybody in the management system.
Including external regulators?
Including, yes, external regulators, right, Luz? Yes, that's the case.
They don't have their own specific reporting form that you have to complete?
No, usually they accept always, but I am checking with Luz. Charles está preguntando si todos los reguladores aceptan nuestro informe de auditoría, sí, ¿verdad? No nos piden algo en especial. Everybody accept it. This is when, doing the national university helps.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So any other questions on audit report? No? One part I haven't picked up on is within this. So actions taken on previous audit issues, obviously you may have found some non-conformities. You've given the organisation a certain period of time in which to resolve those non-conformities. You have a follow-up on those issues. Those will not be included in the audit report. They will be documented separately, I'm expecting. So what would you expect the organisation receiving the audit report to do with it? Does it become a controlled document? Is it something that you audit that they have controlled properly, that they have reviewed potentially during management review? It's again a simple process issue. You provided an assessment of their system, have they reacted to it, how have they reacted, and they've taken valid actions on it. And that's something that the auditors need to see between successive audits. Okay. Okay, that's all that it is. Let's try digital processes. What do we do with digital processes? How do you like all the digital processes?
Digital processes. We don't have so many digital. Okay. Yes, the computer, of course. And it's on the cloud and the internet. And...
Okay. I will go through this slowly. So this says that an audit is defined as a systematic, independent document process retaining objective evidence. How can you obtain objective evidence from a computer system, especially a sophisticated system that has multiple components or interacting with each other? So think about these large robotic car manufacturing plants that use a just-in-time delivery system of components. Yeah. So you've got a supplier database which is being automatically instructed to provide a certain number of components within a certain given point in time, that goes into an inspection process, which might be automated, that goes into the manufacturing line, which could be fully automated. And at the end of it, out comes your product, and you don't know whether it's correct or not, unless you do some sort of full re-inspection, if that's possible. So, how do you as an auditor examine the interaction between the different systems? It's a very difficult issue again, but it's increasingly one we're facing, because almost every object we look at these days has some sort of computerized software and things. You know, one day your toaster for breakfast will talk to you. You know that. Or you've already got the Amazon little box that entertains you. But how do you as an auditor understand if it's giving the correct information or interacting with other systems correctly? The second paragraph there, it says, when processes are automated, embedded, we're faced with a challenge. The first challenge is to understand the virtual environment where digital and traditional processes interact. Okay, we've understood that. Large energy generation companies involving sites and extensive networks and pipelines. What they're saying here is that the digital interaction is not necessarily all in one place. Rolls-Royce, the aeroplane engine manufacturer, monitors the performance of every single engine 24 hours a day. So that when an engine has a problem mid-flight, by the time the aeroplane lands, they already have the service equipment and personnel ready to maintain that engine in order to maximize the turnaround time so that the plane can continue. How do you evaluate such a system? And as auditors, we're familiar with you will be with visiting different laboratories, so different sites. But this is a moving site. How can you make sure that that's working properly? It makes a lovely statement that our audit activities should recognize these challenges. Not giving us the answers, that's the problem. And if you're worried about Rolls-Royce monitoring aeroplane engines, which for us is quite a nice feeling, it's safe. I visited China recently, where the Chinese Alibaba and companies like that, who make components for Mtro trains, they're monitoring all of the doors in the Mtro train. I'm just worried that one day I will be in the London Metro system and there will be a dispute between China and the UK and they will log all the bills. I will be stuck in the Metro. But they have similar real-time monitoring of components. So it's not just companies like Rolls-Royce, it's happening more and more frequently that for customer satisfaction purposes and reliability purposes, you're getting real-time monitoring all around the world all the time. Now, many years ago, as I said, I used to work on fire sprinkler systems. And we had standards with the design of those systems, which were very simple to follow. It would say, if the pipe runs for this length, there will be a loss in pressure of this amount. If there's then a bend, there'll be another certain loss in pressure. And then if you put another smaller pipe, there'll be another loss in pressure. And you could very quickly calculate for a feeding pipe what the pressure needed to be for a distributed system at the ceiling of the room. And I noticed you have split this a lot later. But then someone came up with this idea for high-risk buildings, we need 2 water feeders for security purposes. In case one is stuck or frozen or whatever, it's better to have 2 systems feeding the network of fire. Trying to calculate the pressures in a system that's been fed with 2 feeds and the mixing of those pressures is extremely difficult. And someone came up with a computer program to do that. And our question as auditors in those days was, can we trust the program? Can we validate the program? You know, with the old rules-based or standard-based approach to designing the system, an experienced designer would walk into a room this size and say, that needs to be by that. Yeah, we need this size pressure. Because the people knew the rules so well, their competence was so high, they could actually calculate it just by looking and standing in one place in the room. But with the computer model, no one had any idea whether the output would be correct. I mean, we started doing the first very simple check was to put the same set of data through the process several times to ensure it produced consistent results. Someone came up with the idea of, well, why don't we do a comparison with a different set of programs? The problem in those days was there wasn't a different set of programs. There was only one program that some genius software developer had written. And that might be one of the problems you face if you're auditing digital content. There might not be a similar program for you to compare that data processing effect to, and to validate that it produces a good result. I mean, this piece of text is giving that, you know, there can be ERP systems, workflow systems, e-commerce portals. The world was getting very, very complex. The e-commerce portals. So you go on eBay, I want to buy a car, the order is sent to General Motors and they start building the car. And it can be as complex as that. It's from a simple order taken on an internet page to a hugely complex product being delivered several weeks later after several internet computing systems have interacted with it. I think there are ways that you can interrupt the interaction with these systems and take data from them at certain points. Perhaps the best that we as auditors can achieve is, again, putting test data through the system to check that they're giving a consistent result. Or if it's not us doing it, asking the company to demonstrate that they have done. Okay? Because obviously, if you're going to create a huge automated production line, it's going to take you a long time testing the machinery to make sure it's all compatible with each other, all functions together. So you need to ask them for the test data that they use to demonstrate that the system is working properly. I don't think at this time we can really go much beyond that. But I hope that gives you an insight on digital systems. The question is, how much digital systems are available to using? Is it increasing? You see, I was having a conversation with Monica yesterday about digital auditing. I'm going to come to remote auditing now, but there are some situations you can think of, let's say, an automatic bottling plant, where liquid is being put into bottles, the bottles are capped, they're then put into boxes, they're wrapped, and then they're shipped into lorries ready for distribution. What happens when a bottle breaks during the line? Is there a system for clearing the breakage automatically? Does the line hold? Or what happens? Now, there are situations these days where certification bodies are linked in real time to such systems, so that in parallel to the organization being confirmed that there is a non-conformity, the certification body is also being informed that there's a non-conformity. That slightly changes the way of auditing, because you're not relying on the data or the picture you get when you visit every 6 months. You're constantly being fed data about the performance of the system in the organization. So that's a new way of auditing, but again, relying on digital processes, and you're having to validate those processes. Any questions about digital processes?
Okay.
Me quedé pensando de algunas auditorías que he realizado. En algunos lugares dependemos de una calculadora de un resultado. En el punto de mi identidad, dependemos de mi proceso que me está ejecutando. Necesitamos para un proceso una calculadora de mí que genera un resultado. Pero en algunas entidades también dependen de una calculadora de los resultados. Si lo tienen dentro de su proceso, no un malo o un número que meten en el proceso para generar resultados. Entonces, en este caso, tendríamos que preguntarle a la entidad, a Oxford o a mí, o ver, a la hora de auditar, tendríamos que verificar que estén asegurando el servicio o algo, tendremos que pedirles a ellos simplemente.
Híjole, yo preguntaría ahí, ¿por qué están usando esto? O sea, una calculadora de MIS o de Oxford, o sea, exactamente para qué es, para generar números aleatorios. Si te quitas un poquito el color, ajá, exacto, te escuchamos mejor.
Bueno, hay un laboratorio que tiene, genera su cálculo, un número, yéndose a un software, me parece que de una universidad de y su cálculo de tiempo lo generan software. Pero está libre, está para acceso abierto. Entonces, tendríamos que auditar también ahí que esté asegurando este software.
Ok, le voy a hacer esa pregunta, Charles. The question is that in some laboratories they are using some kind of free software produced by Oxford or MIS or another institution, recognized institution, and then they are incorporating those this data into their processes. So the question is if they have as an auditor, auditors process in MIS or Oxford, or if they need to, request approval, those calculus are being fine, or how to handle this?
As an auditor, I would be asking how that data had been validated by MIS or by Oxford before it was transmitted to you. That would be part of my supplier assessment process. Okay. That's not digital processing, that's a supplier question in my view. So can Oxford or MIS give me a satisfactory answer to how have we validated that data? Now, I know that for research, that's not always possible. You know, you're getting data collected in real time. You're sending it as a real time feed into your process. Again, you need to look at how or what the risk of that data being incorrect or being disruptive could be on real process. So if suddenly there's a spike in data that causes a problem, that causes your process to shut down and causes your process to stop functioning, is that a critical safety issue? How do you deal with it? You know, if it's just, okay, there's been a break in transmission for 5 seconds, it will pick up again, the incoming computer system understands there's been a break and knows how to deal with it. Rather like you get sometimes with movies on TV or something. You know, there's a hiccup, but your system resets and re-accepts or does it through the handshake, re-accepts the data from the beginning of the block of it. I'm probably being very confusing, I'm sorry.
A little bit.
Data is sent in blocks. The receiving system knows when it's not received the complete block, so it then waits and redemands the block retransmitted of that. You can design this in data transmission processes. But how you validate the quality of that data if it's a real-time transmission, that again is a risk you have to think about. As an auditor, sorry, it's a risk the laboratory has to think about. As an auditor, you're just saying, have they done a satisfactory risk evaluation of that live stream data affecting their process? You can't do any more than that, in my view. Satisfactory.
¿Necesitas que te traduzca? No, lo que él está comentando es que en este particular punto que tú preguntaste, lo ve más como un tema de proveedor, ¿no? O sea, tú estás utilizando información de un proveedor. Entonces, en este caso, se tiene que validar. O sea, tiene que haber una demostración de la validación de esa información que tú estás incorporando a tu sistema de gestión. O sea, tienes que tener una validación por NIS o por Oxford de que lo que estás incorporando está bien, ¿no? O sea, porque si no, pues es lógico que cause un problema después si la información es incorrecta. Él no lo dice, pero yo lo agrego. En 17025 esto es un requisito. O sea, tú no puedes utilizar software en el proceso, laboratorios o calibración, que no esté validado, es una no conformidad directa y hasta creo que es mayor. Entonces, esto es importante porque todo aquello que tú estés incorporando a tu proceso y que tenga un resultado directo en los resultados que estás emitiendo, en este caso en un laboratorio, pues tiene que estar validado eso, no hay vuelta de hoja de ninguna forma. Lo que Charles decía es que normalmente esto es difícil también cuando tú estás haciendo investigación, ¿no? Y entonces es donde hay un riesgo, ¿no? Y bueno, pues es algo que ustedes tienen que verificar ahí, pero en el caso de investigación también esto es crítico. O sea, porque si tú estás utilizando datos, ¿no? Que no están validados de procesos, en este caso informáticos, pues lo que va a ocurrir es que traes un riesgo alto de que esos datos, si alguien más los utilizara y replicara tu investigación, no obtuviera resultados similares, ¿no? Y eso es un problemón espantoso en investigación. O sea, tú la investigación que realices en cualquiera de nuestros laboratorios tiene certificado, acreditado o no, tiene que ser repetible, reproducible bajo condiciones similares en cualquier otro laboratorio en el mundo, sobre todo si los estás publicando. Si no, de eso ya lo digo yo, porque estuve trabajando en edición de journals de alto nivel en Inglaterra. Si no, te metes en un problema horroroso de credibilidad y metes a journal en un problema de credibilidad. Y hemos tenido casos tremendos donde se ha cuestionado, o sea, la credibilidad, bueno, de un grupo de investigación, por supuesto, de la universidad o del centro de investigación y del journal. Entonces, en cualquier situación donde alguien reporta en un journal que la información que tú estás utilizando no es confiable o algo similar, en automático cualquier editor de cualquier revista, cualquier journal va a retirar el artículo. Y pues esto se sabe, porque los grupos de investigación, o más bien las líneas de investigación, normalmente tienen pequeños grupos de investigación, ¿no? O sea, no, hay mucha gente que se dedica a esos temas en el mundo, entonces normalmente todo el mundo se conoce. Y cuando hay este tipo de situaciones, pues hay una alerta a todos esos investigadores. Entonces, en el caso de investigación es crítico. Y tú tienes que ver si vale la pena, ¿no? Utilizar esa información. Ahora, yo además como ingeniero en computación, que soy, les diría que utilizar software libre tiene un riesgo también muy alto. Entonces, aunque sea de MIS o aunque sea de Oxford, de donde sea, tiene un riesgo alto. O sea, si a mí me preguntas si yo le recomendaría a algún laboratorio en la universidad utilizar un software libre para incorporarlo a sus procesos de investigación, la respuesta es no. Si estamos hablando de docencias es otra cosa, porque ahí de lo que se trata es de que los estudiantes entiendan el fenómeno de lo que estamos hablando, y entonces ahí sí, ¿no? Pero en investigación hay que tener muchísimo cuidado con esta parte, ¿no? Entonces, él, cuando habla de riesgo, se refiere a esto, ¿no? Y hay que tener cuidado. Y como auditores, hay que preguntar cómo se validó esto, ¿no? A veces, tú como usuario, le puedes, sobre todo en estas instituciones muy importantes, tú les puedes preguntar, mandar un correo electrónico y preguntarles si la información que están proveyendo, que está ahí, está validada. Pero una respuesta muy común es que te dicen que lo están poniendo libre precisamente para validarlo. O sea, porque esa es una forma en informática de validar tus procesos informáticos. O sea, tú los pones libres, la gente los usa y después te vota, te empieza a avisar de los errores y demás, es como tú lo validas. Entonces, cuidado, ¿no? Porque si ese es el caso, pues obviamente no lo puedes utilizar incorporado a tus procesos de calidad. Y aquí me gustaría recordarles otra cosa que se ha difundido muy poco recientemente, pero que es todo un escándalo en la parte TI. Seguramente ustedes escucharon hablar de una empresa que se llama FTX, norteamericana. Bueno, ya ni sabemos si es norteamericana, pero es de criptomonedas. Bueno, acaba de quebrar hace unos meses, ¿no? Y ahorita se está investigando qué tanto el quiebre se debió a que era una situación piramidal o a que los hackearon. Entonces ellos lo que alegan es que los hackearon, ¿no? Y les robaron el dinero, etcétera, ¿no? Pero bueno, hay otra situación de investigación que dice que será un esquema piramidal. Es algo que están investigando ahorita a un nivel muy alto en Estados Unidos porque es un desfalco de billones de dólares, ¿no? Pero esto te habla también de la vulnerabilidad de los sistemas. Entonces, esto hay que tener mucho cuidado, ¿no? Todo lo que esté libre, pues cuidado, ¿no? Y acá tuvimos otra situación también donde Pemex tuvo un problema muy grande y recientemente la Sedena también por vulnerabilidad en los sistemas. Entonces, esto es más común de lo que uno se imagina. Entonces, si yo les recomendaría, por eso es como ingeniero en computación, sí hay forma de que este tipo de cosas no las utilicen de la red, mejor, ¿no? O sea, si hay alguna otra alternativa, hay que usarla, ¿no? No sé exactamente esto que tú comentabas de generación de números aleatorios, hasta qué nivel esté, pero bueno, yo los generaba con una calculadora convencional cuando estaba en mi curso de estadística y de probabilidad y todo esto, ¿no? Pero obviamente depende del proceso, ¿no? O sea, supongo que es algo muchísimo más complejo que esa parte, ¿no? Entonces eso es lo que hay que ver como auditor, o sea, tienes que medir el riesgo en función o evaluar tu el riesgo como auditor que está teniendo ese proceso en función de cómo lo están incorporando a sus actividades. O sea, si está influyendo en sus resultados de sus laboratorios, forzosamente eso va a tener que estar validado de alguna forma y ellos tienen que tener cierta certeza y si no, traen un riesgo altísimo y hay que ponerlo en el informe de auditoría.
Programa MR,
Y tienes que validarlo. O sea, porque aunque lo programen ustedes, de todas maneras, o sea, tienes el mismo problema, tú tienes que validarlo, ¿no? Y el software, para su validación, requiere 3 tipos de pruebas. Pruebas unitarias, pruebas en ambiente y ya pruebas de liberación. De hecho, las normas de calidad de software, o sea, son de las que más hay, digamos, en el mundo. El comité del JPC1 que maneja toda esta parte de la ISO, o sea, si tú te metes ahí, tiene cientos de normas, precisamente por todos estos problemas que hay, ¿no? Pero sí les recomiendo, si lo van a hacer ustedes, tienen que tener una metodología de validación también que sea aceptada y que preferentemente pues que esté de acuerdo a alguna norma de la ISO, ¿no? Porque ahí ya trabajó un comité de un grupo de expertos, ya lo probaron, ya validaron esa metodología, ya es correcto utilizarla. También hay un montón de papers sobre estas metodologías, pero yo usaría una norma, algo más estandarizado para verlo, pero de todas maneras lo van a tener que validar. Ok, el micrófono por allá, gracias.
Doctora, hay tenemos un área de incorporación. La semana pasada, igual, ellos utilizan un secuenciador que está en un secuenciador para bibliografía. Entonces, fue una idea para que el equipo nos empezara en el sitio, porque ellos solicitan el servicio de entonces, la solución de la oportunidad fue verificar precisamente que el equipo funcionaba en condiciones adecuadas, porque el equipo de la libra, o sea, un la libra, y arroja información, o sea, que podía validar, ¿no? El usuario dice, pasa alguna serie de pasos para poder llegar al puesto del elemento. Entonces, en este caso,
Híjole, qué buena pregunta. La voy a remitir a Luz, que conoce más ese tema, pero hay un par de cosas que puedes hacer. Luz, this is a very specific question about the chromatograph, Charles. So we are going to leave Luz answer that. She's our expert. Si le podemos pasar el micrófono, ¿de dónde anda? A Luz. Ay. Dígame tirando el otro.
Bueno, en este caso es un caso muy complicado, pero tengo entendido que es un secuenciador, ¿no? Y el problema es que no estaba en control de...
Claro, del Instituto de Física.
Entonces aquí, para incorporarlo, pues se consideraría un proceso parcialmente interno, donde ustedes tendrían que estar verificando y o auditar que este equipo esté funcionando correctamente, que el proveedor les esté garantizando que el equipo tiene su mantenimiento, sus calibraciones, y aparte ustedes tienen que verificarlo cada vez que lo utilizan. O sea, de entrada eso sería lo mínimo indispensable, pero si es pues, para 9,000 no hay tanto problema, de hecho lo pudieron certificar, pero en 17,025 no podrían aplicarlo de esa manera. Eso contesta la pregunta.
El micrófono, porque si no, no escuchan los colegas que están en YouTube, y este punto yo creo que es muy importante tanto para implementar como para la parte de auditoría.
Claro, el instituto comentaba la que es responsable que ellos no tenían así como la calibración, porque no hay empresa de la calibración, pero sí le dan mantenimiento en el sistema. Entonces, el usuario que va a llevar la documentación es el que se encarga de verificar cada uno de los pasos que va el equipo. Internamente, el instituto hace la verificación nada más y el mantenimiento produce en cuanto a limpieza nada más. Pero no, o sea, no un control, ¿no? O sea, una calibración de una empresa
¿Qué aplica ahí, Luz? Si tiene que haber calibración.
Porque el equipo, lo que comentaba la responsable, era que justamente tenía como que la autocalibración del equipo.
Al ser un secuenciador no necesita una calibración es una verificación que hace los fabricantes, y después ustedes tienen que ver un control que el fabricante también les vende generalmente, y lo tienen que investigar siempre bien. No, o sea, esa es la ventaja del equipo que ustedes utilizan.
Sí, aquí lo que te va a pedir cualquier auditor, y pasándolo a la pregunta realmente ya de los auditores. Bueno, primero este riesgo está muy bien marcado. O sea, si tú tienes algo parcialmente externo, en este caso, pues es crítico, o sea, para su proceso, que ustedes aseguren pues que están obteniendo resultados confiables. O sea, aquí otra vez el objetivo es la obtención de los resultados confiables. Y en este caso, pues está directamente relacionado con el equipo, pero también con la competencia técnica de las personas que están ejecutando esos análisis. Y lo que dice Luz es muy importante. O sea, ustedes, para esta técnica en particular, como dice Luz, les van a pedir que utilicen cierto control, cierto material de referencia, es lo que entiendo, y también les van a pedir que lo vayan validando en determinado tiempo. Entonces, eso lo tiene que tener clarísimo la persona que va a ir haciendo, que va a ir a hacer este proceso de verificación. Porque si se presenta cualquier situación, el responsable no es física. son ustedes, ¿no? O sea,
De hecho, ya se hizo el control.
Ujú.
Corresponde y se están llevando el control. O sea, falta con el
pues es que no soy especialista yo aquí en estos equipos, pero si hay alguien aquí que sea especialista en esos equipos, que nos... Secuenciador de ADN.
Es un secuenciador de biblioteca.
A ver, vamos a darte el micrófono, Laura, para que nos ilustres en este punto que no es tanto de auditoría, sino de implementación.
Bueno, gracias. Pues es que tendríamos que saber primero, como también preguntó Andrea, de cuál secuenciador, si es de bibliotecas de información masiva. Necesitamos saber de qué marca es, para saber qué es mantenimiento, qué tipo de verificación, etcétera, se tendría que hacer. Sí, entonces, no te podríamos decir ahorita exactamente.
Luz tiene otro comentario. Sí, es que esto ya es un tema así muy crítico, pero para fines de auditoría, lo que ustedes tienen que verificar es que precisamente cuando hay estas situaciones, las cosas estén bien amarradas de forma que los resultados que están emitiendo son confiables. Luz, adelante.
Y aquí la situación es que primeramente la persona que está utilizando este equipo debe de tener cierta experiencia.
Claro, competencia.
Competencia técnica. Entonces, primero, evaluar esa competencia. Si esa persona tiene la competencia, va a saber qué controles necesita el pedir para verificar que ese equipo está funcionando correctamente. Después, pues, va a ejecutar las pruebas antes de utilizar el equipo para poder saber que está funcionando correctamente. Y si no lo está, pues avisar inmediatamente al responsable para evitar cualquier situación y sobre todo no poner en riesgo los resultados que pueda emitir. Justo aquí volvemos como auditores. ¿Qué vamos a pedir en esos casos? El grado y tipo de control que ustedes están ejerciendo para ese proceso parcialmente externo. O sea, básicamente como auditores, eso es lo que les van a hacer. Entonces, ya queda un poquito más claro.
Sí, aquí el quiz el asunto es que la persona que va, digamos, a hacer este checklist, esta revisión, sea competente, porque si no, no lo va a hacer correctamente, ¿no? Ahora, no quiero poner en duda lo que comentas, pero recuerden lo que les dijimos el día de ayer, ¿no? O sea, cuando Luz y yo vamos a los laboratorios y les preguntamos, ¿esto está validado? Uy, sí, por supuesto. Oye, entonces tus resultados son confiables, pero ¿cómo te atreves a dudarlo, no? Y ya cuando uno lo rasca y a ver material de referencia, o sea, se encuentra uno con cada cosa. O sea, nos acaban de contestar en un laboratorio recientemente, cuando les preguntamos, oye, ¿tienes calibración de tus equipos? ¿De tus balanzas? Sí, por supuesto, me las acaban de traer y me las trajeron calibradas. Entonces, pues, o sea, ya con ese tipo de preguntas ustedes se van dando cuenta, ¿no? De si verdaderamente la persona es competente o no, porque en la universidad, técnicamente competente, porque en la universidad tomamos como técnicamente competente a alguien que tiene un grado académico. Y uno puede tener un grado académico, pero no haber estado trabajando en un laboratorio, ¿sí? Y no tener experiencia. Y nuestra experiencia puede ser del libro. Y cuidado, porque pues no es lo mismo, obviamente. Entonces ahí hay que tener cuidado, pero bueno, cualquier situación de duda, pues nuestros expertos presentes están allá en el Instituto de Biología, entonces también se les puede preguntar. También por eso sirve todo esto, para un tema de networking, ¿no? Y que ustedes estén seguros de que lo que se está haciendo bien, ¿no? Por acá había otra pregunta, ¿no? Gustavo. So there was a very specific questions about an equipment of the DNA chance. So everything was sorted out thanks to our fantastic experts in the Biology Institute. We have another question here with Gustavo.
When we are auditing, it's correct ask about the competence of the staff in this type of process. Virtual process, or what happened with that?
Yes, if you read the guidance document, and I'm not going to because we're running out of time, but there's a lot of questions about the competence of the people operating the software or developing the software. And the reason that they make that recommendation is that software people tend to be young, like my son, who knows nothing about life or the real world, but he knows how to program software. And so there is a disconnect between the experience of what the people want from the process and the people designing the software, building the software. The reason I've come down to this part in the diagram is the paragraph says the auditor, where possible, should have adequate knowledge of what digital activities are taking place and where, so that an audit plan can be developed. If you read the guidance on the statutory and regulatory aspect, it says the auditor should have sufficient knowledge of the regulations that the organization is taking. So now, as an auditor, you have to become a computer expert and a legal expert. It's becoming very complicated. But on the digital side, I have a friend who's a microchip designer. And they test these chips before sending them to clients, and they do millions of cycles of tests. They estimate what the life cycle of the chip will be, and they probably do 1 million times more cycle tests than the expected life cycle of the chip. And even so, they cannot 100% guarantee that that chip is real. My worry is that those chips are being used in medical devices. I have been, you may notice my handshake a little bit, I've been offered surgery to have a chip put in my hand. I'm not accepting this with any confidence. But when you come to calibration of equipment, one of the ways you deal with it, I suppose, is through validating its use over a number of cycles, more cycles than you would expect, in order to ensure consistent results. That is, I think, there's no reason why these videos. But there's lots of additional useful advice in this guidance note about, is there clear understanding of what programs are being used, what applications are being used, how they interact. For me, that's slightly worrying. I mean, the number of faults we get simply with Microsoft on simple computers where you have 2 different applications that crash each other sometimes. I once heard someone from the automotive industry refer to the software industry as if, well, if they were building a car, it would get 100 meters down the road and no further before it comes. That was an assessment of the automotive industry with the software industry. So I hope things are improving. Again, some of the things you might look at for the software: what is the scope? What are the intended results? What are the inputs and outputs? How was the model verified? How was it validated? Where have deviations to the reality and limitations to applicability with the results of the model used, etc. And we don't have time to go through it. Again, there is some useful advice in this paper about audit realization. And it shows the difference between a virtual process and the intended results and the decision to work. So on the left-hand side, we've got filtering of similar items within a website. And on the right-hand side, the question, what is the algorithm being used for the filtering? On the left, activating material feeding equipment when parameters are reached. And on the right, how is the equipment activated and what parameters is used. On the left, show visual alerts in all sensors during operation. And on the right, how doesn't the sensors interact and where does the alert activation occur and under what material. So this is comparing what should be happening as to what is controlling. Someone gave me an example once. You're driving your car and a warning light comes on that you have brake failure. Does it mean that your brakes are failed with a monitoring sensor? How can you tell? Do we have to have a monitoring sensor on the monitoring? This is one of those reliability questions where I think you have to make a determination of the level of risk you're willing to accept based on what the product is expected to do. So if it's a medical device, you're not willing to accept any risk at all. So you will test it and test it and test it until you've got validated results for hundreds of thousands of tests. If it's, it's a seat lining to a car, you check it a couple of times. So this is where the risk-based thinking model comes in to audit planning and conduct an audit in the digital environment. That's as much as I think I can say on digital processes. Are there any final questions on this? We have about 5-10 minutes left. I just very quickly like to do remote audits, if possible. Yes? Okay. So this is a very long document, giving lots of advice about remote audits. Talking to Monica, she said you've already incorporated most of what is in this document in your own planning for your audit. What I need to warn you is that the International Accreditation Authority is still currently drafting what it calls a mandatory document for the use of remote auditing techniques by certification body. So you will need to adjust your processes when that is published. However, we know that their paper is largely based on this paper. So if you've already incorporated this, you're probably ahead of the game. I mean, this has lots of questions about sampling, where are you going to look at things, what images are you going to look at, what reliability do you have on those images, what risk is there in distortion and corruption, what level of data protection do you put in for remote auditing. The fact of the matter is remote auditing is here and it's here to stay. The pandemic, the COVID situation just accelerated its use. The certification bodies in general have identified they can save huge amount of costs by doing remote auditing. For example, a European-based certification body no longer has to send an auditor to Australia. They just ask the Australians to point a camera. That saved thousands of dollars. It saved hotel bills like program that say the time of the auditor can be doing more audits. Their productivity will increase, their revenues will increase. They were already pushing for remote auditing before COVID. COVID made it a reality and a necessity. So I think coupled with the sort of digital world we're now moving into, you're going to see more and more sophisticated ways of doing the remote auditing. But also, as we experience remote auditing more frequently, the accreditation body and we as certification bodies are going to learn from the process, and we will be adjusting what we do over time. So it's still in a relatively new stage. I don't know how long we have been doing remote auditing for. Couple of years now.
Yes, we have 3 years actually, Charles, of conducting remote audits. And next year we are actually going to conduct audits remote, even if, you know, everything is normal again. We have found that this way to conduct audits is very easy forward for us and very convenient, as we have all the our management systems are actually in the cloud, and we have the tools for video conferences and so on. So for us is a good way to conduct audits.
Okay. The question with remote auditing again is, if you as an auditor conduct an audit, do you have confidence in the results of your audit? And how does the performance of the organization and its quality system then reflect your confidence? You know, you can have a perfect audit and say everything's fine, but then 2 weeks later you start seeing the customer complaints coming in because the organization is actually not performing correctly. I think this is again an issue where you have to think in terms of audit planning. It's not just a single audit. It's we audit now, and hopefully get satisfactory results. But what happens after we do a second or a third audit? Are we still seeing consistent performance from the organization's quality system that then validates that our remote auditing technique is sufficient with that particular organization? Okay. I think that's about it.
Okay.
Questions on remote
No, ¿tienen alguna pregunta sobre la parte de auditorías remotas? ¿Qué es lo que hemos estado realizando recientemente? ¿No? Okay. Apparently not, Charles. Everything is crystal clear. Again.
Okay. There are 2 things you might want to know in this paper. The first is there is an annex within examples of risks and different techniques to be used for remote auditing techniques. So I hope that will be helpful to you if you look at it. The other one that I love is there's a paragraph in here that says remote auditing can be very tiring. Don't forget to take a break. So you have license to the auditing leader. Look, this is tiring when you do it. Okay. So with that, thank you very much indeed. Thank you for your patience. I hope I've given you some overview of what the auditing practice of group has been producing. I really hope that the Spanish translation will be available soon. Monica probably is more knowledgeable about that than myself.
Yes, well, Mercedes actually called me last night because she is watching the course in YouTube to tell me that those documents should be available on May. So in May, yes. So as soon as we have them in Spanish, we will let you know and send you the links so you can download them. But I am pretty sure that you can still work with the English ones because your level of English is a good one as well. So just thank you very much for the course. I think we can give them a aplauso, exactamente.
Great. Does anyone have any final question about auditing that I might be able to answer?
¿Tienen alguna otra pregunta que no sea de auditorías remotas, pero alguna otra situación de auditoría que quieran comentar? Ahorita es el momento que tenemos un experto internacional de estas normas con nosotros. No, I think everybody's very shy today. Or tired.
No,
Ah.
no.
Cállate. Gracias. Es que debe el botoncito debe estar en verde.
Creo que ya.
Ya.
Bueno, en las auditorías remotas, en el caso de los laboratorios, pues perdemos la parte de otros sentidos, ¿no? En los laboratorios a veces necesitamos incluso oler, ¿no? O sentir, porque a veces, o sea, en ocasiones es como huele bien, huele mal, hace calor, hace frío. En el caso de si están monitoreando la temperatura, controlándola, o si tienen una fuga o residuos, ¿no? Entonces, en la auditoría remota creo que estamos perdiendo estos otros sentidos que podemos ocupar. Entonces, o sea, como auditor, yo podría decir, puedo ir a hacer una visita rápida, o solamente nos atenemos a lo que el afectado.
Usualmente los únicos que hacen visitas rápidas y sorpresivas son las autoridades, ¿no? O sea, en este tipo de procesos, no, pero también le voy a preguntar a Charles, ¿cuál es el deber ser? She's asking that in remote audits, in the particular case of our laboratories, sometimes the auditor have to feel and smell, no, and that this, obviously you cannot do that in remote audit, so that this is missing. So the question is that now that, you know, the pandemic is over and everything will be open, if they can just go rush into the laboratory and check that everything is fine.
You can, of course you can rush over to the laboratory and check everything's fine, but that won't validate your audit results when you conduct the previous audit. If I make a cake today and it smells delicious, and I leave it for a few days, it's going to smell very different. So for sensory testing, I don't have an answer. I know there are chromatic gas machines that can determine what is in the environment. Do you have to insist that they produce a chromatographic printout of what the odor was like at that time? For touching things, I can remember there are surface roughness machines. Maybe you insist they have to use a surface roughness machine to prove how the surface is. This is one of the interesting parts about remote auditing and why it's so dynamic, is trying to answer these types of questions. And you may have to cooperate with the laboratory to develop unique equipment for conducting the audit. It may come down to that. And actually, if you develop such equipment, you might be able to sell it at a certification. You could be a world leader in developing smelly audits. Sorry.
And will be very useful in restaurants probably too. Am, yo creo que además de lo que contestó Charles, aquí puede haber dos enfoques, ¿no? O sea, si tú como auditor interno tienes dudas sobre algo, ¿no? En las auditorías remotas, sí hay que ponerse con el auditado y decirle, de acuerdo con el auditado y decirle, oye, me gustaría checar esto, ¿no? Porque estoy encontrando esto. O sea, la mejor forma yo creo que hacer esto correcto es ponerse ambas partes de acuerdo. O sea, si tú estás detectando un posible problema, estoy seguro que te van a decir, sí, por supuesto, vente mañana al rato, paso por ti, ¿no? Ese ha sido, pues el caso de algunas auditorías donde hemos asistido y la gente ha facilitado mucho el proceso, ¿no? Porque de eso se trata. Pero eso es en ese momento, ¿no? Si la auditoría ya pasó, lo que comenta Charles, ya no tienes tu autoridad, ¿no? En realidad ya no tienes tu autoridad para ir. Entonces, de nuevo tendría que ser una situación donde tú lo pactaras, ¿no? Con la gente del laboratorio y le dijeras, oye, fíjate que cuando te audité, me quedé dudas sobre esto, ¿no? Y me preocupa que las cosas se estén haciendo mal. ¿Qué te parece si lo revisamos? Pero ya es una cosa de cuates. Ya no puede estar, ya no puedo, eso no se podría incorporar en la auditoría. Ya sería una revisión, una internal assessment, ¿no? O otra cosa. Y ya sería fuera del proceso de auditoría, ¿no? Entonces, si detectan ustedes algo durante el proceso de auditoría, hay que ponerse de acuerdo y con la gente e ir así, ¿no? Durante. Si es algo que olvida y ya pasó la auditoría y no pudimos estar ahí por la pandemia o cualquier otra situación, pues ya es, insisto, algo de cuates y está fuera de la auditoría. Y lo que acaba de comentar Charles es muy importante y no lo tenemos que perder de vista. O sea, la auditoría es una fotografía instantánea de ese momento, ¿sí? O sea, las condiciones en los laboratorios y en los sistemas de gestión cambian constantemente, son entes que están evolucionando. Y eso también, con esto también pasa lo que comentábamos hace rato, ¿no? Cuando la queja es constante, que es que no me revisaron no me revisaron esto en las auditorías anteriores y ahorita me están ahorita me están marcando este hallazgo. Bueno, probablemente no se revisó porque se hizo un muestreo, porque no se revisa todo, porque es la fotografía instantánea de ese momento, o probablemente no se revisó porque los sistemas de gestión también van evolucionando, madurando y no les podemos pedir de primera vez muchas cosas que ya en el segundo o el tercer año deben de tener, ¿no? Entonces, ese es un enfoque también, algo que no tenemos que perder de vista, ¿no? Que lo que auditamos el día de hoy va a cambiar mañana pasado y que las auditorías de este tipo, como las normas son voluntarias, pues tienen que ser de común acuerdo. El único que puede llegar y presentarse y decir, me abres el laboratorio porque me lo abres es el regulado, ¿no? Entonces hay que nada más tener cuidado ahí. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? El micrófono. Lo pasaron por allá y luego acá.
Pero pasaron aquí nada más quería hacer una aclaración. Recuerda que las autoridades remotas también hay lineamientos de seguir y donde nos establecen los MDs para los organismos de certificación y acreditación. Es que en un ciclo de certificación y o acreditación no pueden existir de remotas, también es de visitar el sitio. Entonces, hay todo eso que no puede ver en el tiempo que pasamos.
Claro. Sí, gracias Luz, porque esta es una parte importante. Y bueno, aquellos de ustedes que sean responsables de sistemas de gestión, esto ténganlo en cuenta porque el próximo año les va a tocar casi todo presencial y no hay forma de evitarlo para las de certificación o acreditación. Las internas no necesariamente tienen que seguir eso, pero de todas maneras, nosotros estamos con políticas muy similares y vamos a empezar a hacer las presenciales donde se pueda presencial o híbridas, ¿no? Vamos a ir ya con un enfoque de hacer pocas auditorías completamente remotas, o sea, van a ser híbridas o presenciales precisamente por eso, porque tenemos que volver a revisar todo y asegurarnos que todo está bien. Ahora sí, Mario.
Sí, precisamente tiene que ver con esta parte de que comentaba, pues exactamente un muestreo, lo que hacemos en una auditoría, no podemos revisar todos los servicios que hicieron, ¿no? Entonces se hace un muestreo, por ejemplo, con 3 o 4, y ya revisamos eso. Entonces cuando decían, ay, es que me hicieron 5 auditorías, 2 o 3 auditorías antes, y esto nunca lo detectábamos, pues precisamente por eso, porque es un muestreo, ¿no? Y precisamente tomando los proyectos que son remotas, pues en remotas tampoco se puede dar cuenta de todo. Todavía más complicado presencialmente.
Exactamente, ¿no? Y eso es lo que les hemos estado diciendo también, o sea, cuando hacen nos hacen estas observaciones que a veces traen entre observación y queja, ¿no? Es lo que les hemos estado comentando, ¿no? Que es pues es un muestreo, no podemos evaluarlo todo, y que pues ya estamos en remoto. Entonces, precisamente por eso hay que irnos preparando, o sea, para la apertura ya de actividades presenciales. Ya vamos a regresar a nuestros viajes a las facultades y a las entidades que están fuera y estar en el laboratorio. Yo creo que también hay que verlo desde un punto de vista positivo, ¿no? El hecho de después de 3 años finalmente vernos, ¿no? Y volver a estar en contacto todos después de todo lo que vivimos y de las situaciones tan complicadas en algunos lugares, ¿no? Entonces, finalmente, pues es un privilegio, ¿no? Estar de nuevo aquí con todos ustedes. Y pues con eso me gustaría, si les parece, cerrar. No sé si hay alguna otra pregunta. Okay, no. There are no more questions, so we are closing, Charles. Me gustaría cerrar precisamente con esa parte, primero agradeciéndoles a todos ustedes estar aquí con nosotros y expresándoles de verdad lo feliz que estamos de que volvamos a vernos y hacer estas actividades de forma presencial que tanto nos hacían falta. No es lo mismo estarnos viendo ahí en la pantallita del Zoom. Por supuesto tiene sus beneficios, pero lo mejor es realmente estar con todos ustedes, que siempre es muy reconfortante y gratificante para nosotros poder escucharlos y pues todo este intercambio de ideas que siempre tenemos con todos ustedes y que les agradecemos muchísimo, pues todo su apoyo, pero también toda su amistad, ¿no? Entonces, muchísimas gracias por eso. Quisiera yo también agradecer al personal, si me lo permiten, del Instituto de Ciencias Nucleares, si se les parece bien, les damos un aplauso, porque nos han apoyado muchísimo. Gracias también a la doctora Pilar Carrión y a todo el equipo de la Secretaría Administrativa, Secretaría Académica, que nos estuvo ayudando para poder tener estas preciosas instalaciones disponibles para este curso. Yo quisiera en lo particular agradecerle a Ale, que estuvo corriendo toda esta semana y meses atrás con este curso. Te quedó estupendo, Ale. Ya con esto te gradúas del proceso de formación con nosotros. Muchísimas gracias por todo tu apoyo. Gracias a Luz también por tus participaciones y su gestión. Y por supuesto, lo más importante, gracias a Charles por habernos acompañado. Charles, thank you very much for accepting coming to the university.
Thank you very much.
This is a recognition that the university gives you for, teaching this course. So thank you very much. And we will cross our fingers that you will not retire soon, and we can have you again in the university. So
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for your attention. And I hope it's been helpful to you. Thank you. Okay.
muchas gracias, Charles. Y bueno, gracias también a todas las personas que nos estuvieron siguiendo en YouTube. Este curso va a estar disponible en YouTube en la página del Instituto de Ciencias Nucleares. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Si ya no nos vemos, que la pasen muy bonito, muy felices vacaciones, feliz Navidad y que tengan un año nuevo lleno de éxitos y de muchas satisfacciones, ¿no? Nos vemos pronto. Oigan, no nos tomamos foto, tienen tiempo de